Dreams retire, we set them free, shaking the ground with epiphany. Fresh thinking loud, it's our decree. Unconventional wisdom dancing on the beat.
Hello, friend.
Hi.
Kim Miller-Hershon, Kim Miller-Hershon Coaching and Consulting. You are watching Unconventional Wisdom, about conventional wisdom. And I have my friend here today, Becky Brown, who is owner of Stride. It is a accounting tax advisory shop. And she's going to tell us a little bit more about it. I think you're going to be in for a wild ride today because Becky defines unconventional in all of the best ways.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. Becky Brown with Stride. I founded Stride in 2008, and we've gone through a lot of different evolutions, and I love what I do. I love helping small businesses grow.
Yeah, so tell us because you've gone through some partnerships, some acquisitions. So tell us a little bit more about that. It's one thing to grow a business, it's another thing to merge. What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, so I started my business very much by accident. I had a job that I loved. It got bought, it was a very fun job in concert promotions. It got bought out by a corporate company, and they expected me to be corporate overnight. And they sent me some trainings, and it was all over my head and didn't seem fun at all. So I left that job and went to a different job, and I didn't like it from the start. So I was like, I need to find something else. I left working for a job to figure out what I wanted to do, but I needed money. So I started doing what I did in college, which was bookkeeping for some friends' companies. And then it sort of just happened. One bookkeeping client turns into two bookkeeping clients, and I had multiple. And back then in 2008, there was no remote work, but I was like, I can be a lot more efficient at this if I don't have to go into my client's office. So I figured out ways to work remotely when people weren't working remotely. I got envelopes, pre-posted envelopes where people could send me their bills, and I could send them back checks that they could sign and mail out. It was very paper, but it was my way. I built it the way that it would work for me. My clients liked it because their work got done and I was available as like almost like a full-time person would be. And then I added tax into my practice. I had an enrolled agent working for me, and we started doing tax. And that was good, but it always required us to have an office at the time. And that was expensive in San Francisco. So decided to switch things up, sold the tax practice, and went fully remote. So we didn't even have an office anymore. At that point, that was 2015, I sold the tax practice. That was my first sort of taking apart and off of the business. And that was in the spirit of that was what's good for the business. So then in 2018, I felt a little stuck, and I felt like I needed help, and I looked into bringing in a partner. Instead brought in three. And that was quite a wild ride. Didn't go as I expected it to, and I ended up leaving the company. I still retained 25% ownership, but I ended up leaving and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. Took some time off in finding myself. And then a couple of years later, the people who bought it told me they wanted out and they wanted to sell it. And so it was the opportunity for me to buy it back. It had grown significantly. It was 3 times the size. So I bought it back with my current partner, Morgan, who brought a tax practice in. So now we have Morgan as a CPA. We brought the tax practice back in, and now we're a fully remote accounting company with 20 employees, and everybody's all over the state, all over the country. Nobody's here.
Right. Let's just take a moment to appreciate the fact that you figured out how to do offsite remote work. That was really something, right? And talk about figuring out a way to do it so that it worked for you. Let me ask you one other thing, because I know that you have kids. At the time that you decided to go out on your own, did you have kids at that point?
Nope.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was just me. I could work all the time. I could do what I needed to do to build my business. And I
Right.
often have people ask me, like, how do you do it, build a business and have a family? And I'm like, I built a business before I had a family.
Okay, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, because I love working. I mean, I love being with my kids, but I'm excited for working on Monday. I'm not like dreading it or
Right.
excited.
Yeah. I love that. All right. So I'm already inspired. Right. All right. Random question. Would you go back to school if you could, or why not? Like,
Huh.
yeah.
I loved the social part of school. I didn't love school. I like learning a lot. I don't love what schools teach. I took a little seminar in high school that my dad made me take. It was called Why Your Credit Score is More Important Than Your SAT Score. And that was probably one of the most valuable things I learned in high school. It changed my future. I mean, it really did define and make me understand. I didn't get in credit card debt in college like so many of my friends did because I wasn't enticed by the sign up for a free credit for a free t-shirt or movie tickets or whatever it is they were hawking. I was like, I'm not going to mess up my credit score.
That's so interesting. This was a while ago, maybe a year or two ago. My husband and I were sitting outside at a restaurant, and this young couple came up, and there were no other tables, and our table was big. And we just said, sure, come sit with us. So we started chatting with them. And this young woman got enticed by one of those $300 prepaid secure credit cards. She had a $500 balance on it, and she was totally baffled, right, about how, because nobody told her that if you don't pay the entire balance monthly, that it's just going to grow. And as opposed to thinking poorly of her, I was like, this education piece is so important. I think it's totally logical to say, well, I have a $300 limit. It's not going to go past that. Don't know better. In addition, Becky, you know what? We could really sort of even extrapolate on that and talk about business owners
Mhm.
who, let's say you've got a bookkeeper, you just assume that they're the ones with the expertise. You assume that they know what they're doing or they have things categorized correctly. And how many times have you gone in and cleaned up a mess where you're like, these things aren't in the right places?
Almost always. When we first talk to a client, we look at their operational maturity, right? And we have kind of three buckets that we put them into. Really operationally immature. Those are the companies that are excited about getting everything as cheaply as possible. So they're like, I only pay $300 a month for bookkeeping and I only pay $800 a year to get my taxes done as a point of pride. They think that they're getting something good, but they're not understanding that you get what you pay for. And your services aren't going to be what you expect if you're not hiring someone. Not that doesn't have to be the most expensive, but really somebody who puts a value to their work and make sure they're providing you that value.
Right.
So when someone comes in and they're in that really operationally immature, the main thing with them is educating them on why it's important that their accounting be correct. What does it affect? What other things does it affect?
Right.
Maybe they just need that basic bookkeeping because what we're doing is using the numbers to look forward in your
Right.
business, not constantly looking back, which is what a lot of accountants are doing.
Right.
So, and then there's like the companies that have good books, that have a good bookkeeper, but they don't know what to do with those numbers. They're like, okay, if things are in the right categories, I think, but now what? So they care about their numbers, they get them right, but they don't know what to do with them. The clients that are really operationally mature and they have their books clean and they're using those books to make decisions about their business, they have an opportunity to possibly get further investments in their business, expand or sell, and they can do it with confidence and knowing that the value is very clear from their books. The books tell the story as it should.
Right, which I love. I know even for me, that second category, I've run into that even in my business, which is all I'm going to do is tell you what happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I think it feels innovative, right? Like, how wild is it to say unconventional that you do advisory going into the future, right? Along with the bookkeeping, because for me, I find that that is not the usual model.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of bookkeepers who are just looking at the past, that's what the client needs, right? They need their bills paid and they need the things categorized so they can do their taxes. And there's a lot of businesses that's all they need, and that's great. And there's bookkeepers out there that that's what they provide. And I talk to people a lot who aren't the right fit for us. I talked to a client the other day through a lawyer that referred to me that they were just too small. They wouldn't need what we were giving them. They just really needed a bookkeeper. So I referred them to one of my former employees who started his own little shop. So it's definitely like there's a place for all the different levels.
Right. And I think, again, sort of knowing the value that you provide and staying in your lane can be one of the hardest things as a business owner. Yeah.
Yep. And customers sometimes want to push you to do something in a different way, right? Like, I don't like that deliverable. Can we change it? Or no, like sticking with this is what we do, this is how it works. And if you don't want it, you don't have to buy it from us, but this is how we do it. I think a lot of times people let the clients take over, and that doesn't ever work, doesn't ever get to a good place.
Right. Good. All right. So I think we're off to a good start in just really showing you as a listener just how successful Becky has been. And I mean, 20 employees, that's not a small shop, and yet has done it in a way that is very genuine to who she is. So let's find out a little bit more about how she got there. What's one piece of conventional wisdom, like something that somebody told you is going to make you successful, that you have realized later on it just was wrong for you?
I think hiring salespeople, that I needed to hire salespeople, that I wasn't ever gonna grow beyond like $3 million ish revenue, right? If I didn't have a sales team. And I don't think that that's true. I do have one person in sales, but he comes from accounting. So it's not a salesperson. I mean, he does sales, but he really understands accounting. What I realized about what I want to provide is I don't want anyone to just be able to buy it. We need to talk to the person. It has to be a fit. So if I had salespeople who were just out there and trying to sell to get commission, which we have had in the past, you end up with a lot of wrong fit clients, which ends up costing a lot more. I don't think I want to scale in that way where I have salespeople going out. Me or my partner want to talk to every client before we bring them on, even if it's just for 30 minutes, to make sure like this is a fit for us, culture fit, we're going to actually be able to help them. Also, one thing that I've heard a lot is the customer is always right. And that, I think maybe Krista said this too. I'm not sure. I feel like I heard this on one of your other podcasts, but the customer is not always right in our world. And it's hard to say to a client that they're wrong. But our clients often talk about the way that they get paid by check and they don't have a cash flow problem. So they're not worried about that. And I was like, okay, you don't have a cash flow problem. I get it. But how much time does it take to figure out which check goes to which invoice? How much time are you taking writing emails to clients when they don't pay? That's overhead. So maybe you don't have a cash flow problem, but you're spending a lot of overhead on trying to collect bills and trying to match checks to payments, where if you just offered an ACH option, which they don't want to do because it costs money, right? So I can tell them you are wrong. It's not better to receive checks. Maybe you're not spending cash on it, but you're spending money. You're spending overhead. So it's being able to tell somebody, like not make them always right. So I would say customer is always right, something you always hear. And I don't think it's true.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting. So let me ask you this. Obviously, I have a very strong personality, and there are times when I am 100% that is not right. There are times when that is really hard for me to say to a client, right? Becky, you know where it came up for me? This is really interesting, and I'd love to get your take on this. I have a master's in public administration, right? So I am really trained, like educationally trained, to be in leadership in a nonprofit. Okay.
Right.
And so I started out as a little pup in nonprofits. And I very much realized that it was not the right environment for me.
Okay.
But those people who get caught up between, I don't want to make money, and, if I make money, that sort of means something about me. Like I can't be mission driven, or I can't be,
Right.
you know,
Right. I totally know what you mean.
okay. So it resonates with you.
Mhm. Especially like in the political climate and world that we're in right now, it's like if you think this, you can't also think this. And that's just not true. There
Mhm.
are no rules in the way people think. And everybody, even if 10 people think almost the same, there's no way that they think exactly the same. There's no way. It's impossible.
Right.
So I'm a capitalist. I go out, I make money, I want to make money, and I spend a lot of time volunteering for things that are important to me, right?
Right.
And volunteering and money, donating.
Is
And other things, like one of my favorite restaurants, Pamela in Oakland, is closing at the end of May. And I love Mickey. She's just so inspiring. I've met her a few times. She's so wonderful. And we've been going there like twice a week because we're like, we want to support this restaurant. It's not charity. It's something that's important to us that we want to support. And so we're going to support it.
right.
Doesn't matter that it's not a charity. It's something that's important to us and it's our mission. So we support it in the ways that we can.
Right. I agree. In regards to what you just said about going to a local business that you want to support, Phyllis Simon made this comment a couple of years ago when we were talking about Black History Month. And I know that this is not a very popular topic these days, but I don't care because I support minority owned businesses.
Absolutely.
And there's always a push, whether it's whatever the theme of a particular month, there you'll always see things like it's Black History Month, support Black businesses, or it's Asian Pacific Month, right? I think those are good things. What Phyllis said, which had such an impact on me, was make a commitment to go to those businesses once a week throughout the year, or to be a patron on an ongoing basis, because that's really what's going to move the needle for these small local independent businesses, right?
Yeah. We go grocery shopping often at some of the small Mexican grocery stores. They have the best food, right? Really, they really have great food. And we don't get stuff that we need to get at Safeway there. We go there because one, we love it. We love the people and it's nice. It supports them. I'm very much all about, as much as I can, going to small businesses. When I'm in a small business, I pay cash. So I try to be aware because I know how much credit card fees hurt small businesses. I get it. And I think it's really important to be aware of those things. I go into Nordstrom or whatever, I use my credit card. I'm not paying cash, right? They don't need it. But when I go into a small local business, I always pay cash. And if I don't have cash, I'm always like, I want to pay you cash. I'm so sorry. I'm paying my card. I try to acknowledge it because I know it's hard for them.
Yeah. I've thought about it the other way around. Like, for instance, my husband and I go to reflexology, right? The foot reflexology once a week. And, they've just set their business up that you pay the credit card fees,
Mhm.
right? So they're encouraging people like basically to pay cash, right? I'll often do a tip in cash if I'm at a restaurant or whatever, so that they don't get taxed on the
Mhm.
tip.
I wish more businesses could do the where they passed on the credit card. It's a very hard thing to do. You have to calculate the fee every time. For my business, if I want to pass on the fees because you're paying online, I totally can. But in a retail situation, it's a lot harder.
Right.
And people, like you said, I don't think people think about it.
Yeah.
My family owns a restaurant, so I know that they prefer cash. It's really because of the credit card fees.
Right. Right. Okay, this is
That is a
life
lot.
changing. Okay, so
Well, when they say free delivery, everybody's paying the delivery, right? So it's kind of like that. It's like you go to a big place and it doesn't matter, but when you go to a small place, they can't adjust all their prices.
right. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right, life changing. So, as a successful business leader, what is one thing that everybody just assumes that you've got like this nailed, and it's something that you still struggle with?
Time management. Yeah.
Okay, say more about that.
I always have people say how I can multitask, and multitasking isn't a real thing. So, like, I don't really multitask. I think I have a lot of balls in the air, right? And I just have to know which ones are glass and which ones are rubber, right? So I can drop the ones, let them bounce, and I can deal with the glass ball. I get stuck on things, something little happens and I have my whole day planned out, and then something small happens, and then I go down a rabbit hole, and it all of a sudden is 3 o'clock, and I didn't get the things done that I needed to do. And I'm getting better at it, at time management, not checking my emails all the time, letting my emails sit and just going in designated times. I think that's a huge one. And trying to use some tools that are out there, just like AI tools and stuff that help you. I don't have one yet, but I'm still looking and trying to see how I can leverage AI. Because someone said to me the other day, AI is there, whether you like it or not. It exists. And if you don't figure it out, it's going to cause problems. So you need to take a hold of it and figure out how you're going to use it. So I've been meeting with my MSP, help me figure out how to bring AI and make our lives easier. So that's sort of like on my mind right now.
Somebody told me, and I can't endorse this tool because I'm not using it, but I did think it was interesting. And evidently, it's not inexpensive. There's something called Lindy, which manages his appointments in email.
Mhm.
And it can send automatic emails as if it's a human. I do think there's a lot of time and administration around setting up meetings.
Right. So I have a VA and we have Calendly, so that helps. I've been looking at a tool called Fixer,
Oh,
Fyxer.
yeah. Mhm.
And it's like an email management tool where it'll go in and tell me, like, these emails you probably want to archive, these emails.
Uh-huh. Right. Yeah.
So I've been looking at possibly, I'm actually talking to Alex later on tomorrow to help me figure out if it's.
Yeah. I use SaneBox for that.
Oh, SaneBox. Okay.
Box.
I'll try that one.
Yeah, I agree. I think time management is a big one, and I think it is multiplied as well when people have your calendar link, and then they can set things up whenever they want to. The other thing that I always encourage my clients to do is in response to what you were saying about the expectation of people, because I hold the expectation that if I send an email, you are going to respond like within a couple of hours. One of the things that I encourage my clients to do is to set the expectation with their clients and their people that I will respond within 24 hours, right? Or have an autoresponder on your email that says, I check my email at 10, noon, and 2. If there is something that is urgent, here's a number that you can call or text me here, and I'll respond immediately. The other thing is that people who have notifications every
Yeah, I
time an
turn
email,
every notification off. No Slack, no text, no nothing.
you got to turn that stuff off. It's such a distraction, right? Because you can have it on your wrist as well as your phone, as well as your computer. Like it's just a barrage of things all the time.
Yeah, not checking my email has really changed things. We do have, like, we tell all of our clients all the time, we respond within 1 business day. And we have service level agreement tracking on our email. So my team, like, I get notifications if they take longer to respond, which is good. The time, like, sometimes I just have back to back to back to back to back meetings all day long. So getting better at like blocking my calendar, not even necessarily other people putting stuff on my calendar. It's me.
Right. Yeah. Giving yourself a buffer, right? And here's the thing that I love to say, who made the rule that meetings have to start either at the top of the hour or the bottom of the hour? Like, why couldn't a meeting start at 10 minutes after so that you give yourself a buffer? Here's the other thing in terms of efficiency that I am a huge advocate of is that not only do you need transition time for just your head and bio breaks and sort of all the things that we already know that we need, but I talk about time management and efficiency. So here's the other piece of it is that if you end a meeting And you, while it's all fresh in your mind, you either do what's going to take 2 minutes or less to do, you send a note to your team members or your assistant, you make a note for yourself of the things that you need to do, you are going to save yourself so much time, right? It's the same thing as you said in the beginning about the check, right? And matching it to the invoice and so forth,
Mhm.
because it's just a process and a procedure.
Mhm.
Having to go back at the end of the day or the next day to try to remember what you committed to at that meeting, what it was that you needed to do. And even if you record it and something is going to tell you what your tasks are, to take a moment.
And write it down. The writing it down is so big for me. I don't know how to function in a world where I don't have a pad of paper right
Okay.
next to me with a pen.
Yep.
It's literally like, and every day, and if anyone tried to look at it and read it, they would not have any idea what it meant, but I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's interesting is if you prefer digital, I do have a remarkable tablet here, which you write on. Like I've got, here's the pen, right? And so you can write. What's really cool about this is that you can put things in folders. It can go right into your Drive or into your Dropbox. And it will also translate your writing into text and
Oh,
create outlines. So if everybody's like, oh my God, Kim and Becky, they're so old school, they're using like paper, but there is very clearly mind hand connection that happens when you write versus when you type.
mhm.
So this is a good hybrid option.
So do you use it though? Because I saw you have your pad of paper.
I know, you know what? I was using it and then I went back to my pad of paper.
That's what I think would happen
It's
to
still
me.
on my desk and it does have battery.
Okay.
It does have battery. But to talk about my own time management, I am really trying to spend as little time on admin things. I have an assistant and she's really good at that stuff.
Mhm.
So she probably could do it, right? If it goes up into Drive, she could manage it for me. But I stopped using it because at the time I was having to manage all the files and finding things and so forth. And I'm really not interested in doing that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you could rewrite the rule book on leadership,
Mhm.
what outdated belief would you throw away immediately? And then what would you replace it with?
So I don't know what's out there in the world, but I live by the saying, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I think that to me is like the cornerstone of being successful. Asking for permission, I don't think is going to get you anywhere. Right. Look, I operate, and I'm an honest person. I operate with integrity. Right. When I say don't ask for permission, I mean, don't rob a bank and then ask for forgiveness, right? You're not going to get it. But if you're operating with integrity and legally and honestly, do what you think is right, do the thing that you think is right. And if it's wrong, you can ask for forgiveness. I tell my team that all the time when they're doing stuff they ask me a question. I'm like, do what you think you should do. Obviously, don't pay a bill if you're not sure, but make the entry, do the thing, and then ask me if it's right. And then ask for confirmation. Don't go through life like, can I do this? Can I start a business? No, you can. Just do it. You just have to take control and do it. And nobody is going to give you permission. If you're waiting for it, you're not going to get it. So you have to push and basically take what you want and just make it happen. So I think women, especially, don't get that permission to just do what they want to do. They feel like they have to ask a lot of times. And I think I'm giving you permission. Go do it. Go do the thing. It'll be fine. It's
Oh
scary,
my,
but it'll be fine.
yeah, I love that.
I
And
think people need to have a higher tolerance for risk. You know, I read a book, it's called A More Beautiful Question. And it's all about learning how to ask better questions instead of just memorizing facts. Just really, really ask a lot of questions. And it talks a lot about when kids are young and how they ask all these questions, and we lose that as adults.
right.
I think that's why people say, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. because they want you to simplify it and break it down. And if you say something to a 5-year-old, their first question is, why?
I like that. You know what's funny? You know what it reminds me of? Like when my son was young, and really, it maybe it was not the best thing because I certainly didn't want to quelch his curiosity. But when he was around 3, he asked so many questions, like nonstop. And one day I was like, David, you've used up all your why questions for today. There's not any left. I'm sorry, bud. You're gonna have to wait till tomorrow.
Well, it's funny because when I was a kid, I always tried to find my way around things, right? So I had my own phone in high school in my room, like a phone line. And one time I got in trouble and my parents took it out of my room. They took the telephone. So I wanted to talk to my friends. So I went to Walgreens, bought a phone. And when they went to bed at night, I would plug it in, talk on the phone, unplug it, put it in my closet. I did it all the time. It was like my innovation, right? My son, a few weeks ago, my kids were on their iPads and we decided to block the Wi-Fi to their devices to get them off because they weren't listening to us. We blocked it. So we didn't unblock it. And the next morning I go in and my son's on his iPad. And I'm like, how are you on your iPad? I blocked the internet. He goes, I found another network. And I was like, wow, you really are my son. And I was proud of him. Like, honest to God, yes, he wasn't listening to me, but he found another way. Right. And like, that's what I did. Like, that's how I was. I always like found another way. Yeah, then it was dishonest. It was breaking the rules. And I don't want that for him. But it was my way of like testing boundaries. And I think that's his way of testing boundaries. And I think testing boundaries is a good thing. Right. I think, again, harmless,
Right.
honest, integrity. Like he's not, yeah, okay, that wasn't so honest, but he wasn't hurting anybody. I was like, wow, I'm impressed.
Right. And I think the message for the listener really is I do think that we put a lot of constraints on ourselves, right? We put ourselves in a lot of boxes and boundaries, and a lot of us are listening to our parents, even though we are full grown adults, right? Like we haven't questioned who we are as a person. That's a little bit of how you're wired, right? I think the message, though, really is that take the risk, do the thing. And, I like the don't ask for permission. I think the other piece is that if you are not surrounded by the people that are going to be like, you go, Becky, like, you go, Kim, I think you really need to consider that. The other thing is, this came up with a client. It was like, you know exactly what that person is going to say or do when you tell them your success or your new innovation or whatever. They're going to quash your dreams every single time. So, guess what?
Don't tell them.
2 things about that, right? Like, one, why are you sharing that with them? Like, that's on you, right? And number 2, is it somebody who you really need in your life?
Mhm.
Right? Which is not an easy thing to do, but success is a lot about who you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really important to have people who are going to encourage you, but also people who are going to be honest with you, right? And
Right.
we talked about the customer always being right. If I hire a lawyer to do something, I don't want them to do what I tell them to do. I want them to tell me, because I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, right? So like in a lot of things, I go to the doctor or the mechanic, I'm not going to be like, this is how I want you to fix my car. This is how I want you to fix my teeth. No, that's not how it works. So I think it's really important to know they came to you because you are the expert. And if you just say, okay, sure, and yes, man, they're probably not getting what they want out of you, even if they think they do because you're saying yes to them, right? It's not why they hired you. It's not why they came to you in the first place. Not just being a yes man doesn't benefit anyone.
Right. Exactly. Good. All right. So let me just ask you one last question here, because I think it's an important advice for you, I think, to give us, which is so many leaders, right? We think, oh my God, like Becky's built her business. It's a multi-million-dollar business. She's got 20 people working for her. The reality is that it doesn't matter how big your business is. that there are always doubts that creep in, right? So as a leader, or even just like personally, I think there's two pieces of it. Like, when do you feel imposter syndrome? And what do you do about it?
Well, I definitely feel imposter syndrome when I'm talking to a new potential client and they're asking all these questions and they have all these expectations. I know that we can do it, right? I know that we can deliver on what they want. But I often have this like, am I really the expert? It always comes out, right? Like it just comes out. I've gotten really good at kicking that self-talk out because I just think that I've learned that it doesn't serve me. I think I've talked to myself about this happened with this client. It was a really big client and you were worried about it. And, so I kind of like try to recall the situations that I felt like that before. Right. Like, so we have a really big potential client that's coming on, and I've just been like, maybe it's not the right fit for us. Maybe they're too big. And my partner was like, no, remember, they're just like, and they mentioned another client and they have the same things going on. And I'm like, you're right. They're the same. We're going to be fine. And also, I'm not a salesperson. So in the closing of the deal, I feel like, am I charging too much? Is it, like I question those things, right? Is it really worth it for them to pay this much for our help? So these are things I question, and it's good having a partner who we can be like, no, it's good. You're good. One of the things I really value having a partner, finally having the right partner, because before making all the decisions myself was very difficult.
Yeah. And even if you don't have a business partner, having the right colleagues around you. I think one of the things that I really value is that I now have a group of coaches. And interestingly enough, Becky, at least one of them, we really are competing for the exact same clients, right? And yet we'll talk to each other about pricing. We'll talk to each other about how to structure an engagement, right? I think once you can get, like, listen, this was not about the other person. This was about me coming from an abundance mindset.
Mhm.
This was me being able to say, there is enough business out there for all of us,
Mhm.
right? And it already exists. We have very different personalities, right? We do the same work, we are not the same people. And so, really being able to sit in also, good for you that you close that. Because guess what? That was not about me.
Mhm.
It's often like, oh my God, like you built your business that big, Becky, that's amazing. And then in the background, you're like, but that sucks for me because like I didn't do this, whatever. Well, guess what? It actually is not about you,
Right.
right? It's about genuinely saying to somebody, you go, girl.
Mhm.
How amazing. You grew that. You found the right partner. You did that. And to be able to genuinely say that to somebody else and actually feel how good that
Yeah.
feels to support somebody else. And listen, if I want to grow my business that big, you're a good person to have in my circle,
Yeah.
right? But you know what I'm saying? As opposed to, I'm jealous of you or I don't have anything like that. Tell me more, right?
Everybody can have it. And I think that's the whole thing. Just because one person has success and the next you're like, you could sit there and admire them and feel jealous of them, but it's not going to serve anyone. It's not going to serve them. They don't care. It's not going to affect them and it's going to hurt you.
Right,
So in that case, it's about you. You can
right.
have the same success as them. It's not mutually exclusive. That's why, like, I have such great relationships with so many other accountants, right? I talked to a CPA yesterday and she's like, I want to work with you on a client. She wants me to be the accountant. I'm not going to take the tax. She's going to take the tax. It's a referral. We're going to work together on it.
Right.
It's fine. That's the way it works. And it works great.
Right. As long as you're open to it. Right.
I'm open to it. And yes, and I want to be in the same network with people who are open to it. I've been to meetings before where they're like, we have another accountant and the accountant doesn't want you in the group because it's a competition.
Right.
Okay. And that happened actually years ago. I tried to join a group and there was a CPA in the group and I didn't do taxes at the time. And he would not let me join. He's like, no, she's going to take the business and refer it to a different CPA. But I said, no, I'm not. And he was like, I don't believe it. So I didn't get in that group. Fine, whatever. But I think that mindset of scarcity, it's hurting you. It's not hurting other people. It's hurting you.
That's right.
Because the abundance mindset says, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there and I can't do all of it. And Stripe's not the right fit for all of it. I mean, Nicole McKenzie, another bookkeeper with me, we're good friends. We've referred each other back and forth. We're different.
Yeah, very different.
We're just different in our delivery and our beliefs and everything. So it's not, she's not bad at what she does. I'm not bad at what I do, but some people are better fit to her than they are to me.
Yeah, perfect. All right. You have dropped a lot of truth bombs here. And I think really given such a great perspective that is really different and really helpful. I want to just thank you so much for being so open. I hope you, as a listener, really got something here that helps you to move forward and to take something Becky said here and use it. That's what this is about. I am Kim Miller-Hershon, Kim Miller-Hershon Coaching and Consulting with Becky Brown from Stride. If you like the podcast, listen, download, review, subscribe, like all the things. And we will see you next time. So thank you.
Cliches retire, we set them free. Shaking the ground with epiphany. Fresh thinking loud, it's our decree. Unconventional wisdom dancing on the beat.